Hey everybody, welcome back to Roll With It, brought to you by Panda Odyssey and Seen and Metu. My name is Eva,
And I'm Rob.
and this time we're going to be talking about what you should and should not do when visiting gyms. We've been encouraging you to go out, travel, and visit other gyms and try to explore other horizons. But with that
Yeah.
comes some kind of responsibility besides making sure you get to the airport on time. Um, so we're going to just jump right straight into it because we feel that it's, even though it's common sense, we still have to go over certain details because visiting other gyms, especially in other countries, comes other cultures and the way they might do things. So, um, very first thing up, the very number one thing that I find it to be the most important thing is always show up with clean gear.
Yeah. I mean, you know, people. I understand people want to have like that maybe they can't always wash their gi and they want to air dry it, and it's like have a backup. Go with no gi. Tell them you don't have a gi or something. But yeah, have clean gear, right?
And I think we'll talk about specific gear too, but if you are a smaller person, if you were, let's say, a size A0 through A3, maybe even A3, you have the luxury of being able to get one of these awesome travel gis that are popping up everywhere. They're lightweight and maybe even have two that you can fit in your suitcase or your backpack. I travel with a backpack, so I have minimum space. But if you wear between those sizes, sometimes you'll have the ability to have at least two gis. If you are somewhere for a week, you have the ability to train gi at least 3 times. If you wash the first one right away, it'll be dry by the time you have to use it again.
Yeah. I had two travel gis when I was traveling. I mean, I can only fit I think 3 days worth of clothes, but I made sure I had the two gis, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's going to come down to, are you traveling because you want to train jiu jitsu mainly, or are you traveling and hope to train jiu jitsu? If you hope to train jiu jitsu while you travel, then maybe just take one gi. But if you are wanting to train and then it just happens to be in different places that you get to go and sightsee or whatnot, then maybe take two gis at least. You know, unfortunately, for someone like me, I wear an A4. So I don't have the luxury of taking 3 gis with me because it'll occupy so much space. But then I do have no gi as well to back it up.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you have um, two gis and some no gi gear, I think you're set, and like I don't think you need anything else other than that. I mean, uh, by the time you're done that last set of gear, your first set should be dry, right? So
But yeah, to me, that's the number one thing. Wherever you go, make sure you have clean gear, good hygiene. Um, is there a specific brand you use to wash your stuff? I know some
oh, you
people
mean
like your gis. I know some people don't like to use like fabric softener on it to make it smell nice longer and stuff.
okay? Yeah.
Or
Well, one thing I did when I traveled, um, was I took the detergent pods with me because they take up a lot less space. You might not always have a place that has detergent, you know, uh, if you have
Like quickly available.
laundry, yeah, if you have, it might be expensive, right?
Right.
It could be, a couple of dollars. Sometimes if your only option is using public uh, washers, you know, per load could be expensive. Plus, if you have to buy detergent and everything, um, when you bring your own pods, which work everywhere, um, you know, they're really cheap to buy and they're compact, to be able to put in your bag and bring with you. Um, I mean, if you can't do that if you're only carrying, like bring and carry on. But I mean, if you're having a check bag and throw it in, um, I found those really helped. Other than that, though, like yeah, I was just having to pick up detergent whenever I could, right? Sometimes you don't have the luxury of getting the brand you want, but um, you
Yeah,
know,
I know there's some
uh,
like brands out there that have specific like antibacterials for to prevent, like staph or anything like that. Because sometimes even though you wash it,
yeah,
these public washers are not the best. You're gonna get
yeah,
the stink out, but you might not get everything out of a gi. And you don't know where you're visiting. The gym might not always be the cleanest. Let's say, not to say that there's, that it'd be. I don't know. There might be a dirty
no,
student out there. Every gym might have them. You know, so I know there's some brands out there that have antibacterial in them specifically for um like gis and no gi gear.
um,
I haven't personally tried it, but my go-to was Head and Shoulders. Head and Shoulders also has antibacterial on it. So if you don't have antibacterial when you're training and you know like a specific soap or something, um, I'd recommend Head and Shoulders. At least that's what their label says. So I trusted.
like for your clothes.
Yeah, like I would just because I would use it for my hair. I don't use it anymore because it would kill my hair. That's some girl problems.
Oh, okay,
That's some girl problems,
okay,
Rob.
okay.
I you don't
I'm
you don't carry do you carry
no,
shampoo for your
uh,
beard?
yeah, like I shave my head, right? So I guess you know, no, I didn't actually. There was a few times I would stay in a like a hotel, and they had those little soaps and they had those little shampoo bottles and stuff.
Hmm.
I'd steal those. I'd pack those all up and I'd use those. Yeah, yeah. But I always had tea tree oil with me, so I always put a few drops on me or in my soap or whatever. But as far as detergent for clothes, I always just use what I could. And I tried bringing, I'd bring the pods with me when and use those as long as I had them for. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, so let me bring you to a quick, you know, a different world of hair. I mean, there's guys out there that have long hair too, so they need shampoo. But um, we travel with shampoo and conditioner, which it's that one thing that makes people's hair really soft. Yeah. So,
I
um,
was I when I had hair, I had the 2-in-1, so I really don't know.
yeah, I've never liked those ever. Um, my
Yeah,
my wife
yeah.
uses it, but I don't like it. I like my hair being extra soft and stuff. But anyway, so I have to carry shampoo and conditioner. And the very first time I started traveling, I was like, okay, I don't have enough space to take both shampoo, conditioner, and detergent. So
Mm.
what I would do is I would take the smallest pack I could find of detergent, like whatever pack I was taking. I never tried with the pods because I always felt like maybe they would pop on me or something. But what I would do
I
is
didn't have any problem.
I would mix it with my uh, shampoo. Also, it's gonna sound crazy. Now we're just talking about little hacks. Now we're talking about hacks on how to make sure you keep your clothes clean. Because what I would also do is if I would rent an Airbnb and they had dish soap, or if I rented a hotel that had a kitchenette in it and they had dish soap, I would dish soap is really good to take out stains, and then I would mix it in with
Yeah,
my
yeah.
Head and Shoulders because it has the antibacterial and the smell. That's nice.
Oh, okay.
So I would have my
And
own
then
little hack.
wash clothes with that.
Yeah. Um,
Huh.
on my upcoming trip now, I found these like nifty little sheets. They look like dryer sheets, and it's supposed to be like 3 in 1. It has detergent in the sheet plus softener,
Oh, okay.
and then you just throw it in the dryer with your clothes, and it's the dryer sheet that you can put there to prevent the static. Um, I don't obviously you don't dry your geese, but for the rest of your clothes. But anyway, there's some little quick hacks for all you out there trying to travel and figure out, how to keep your stuff clean. Look for
Yeah.
it. There's many ways to make sure you have clean gear and you don't stink and you don't, you know, get weird diseases and stuff. We don't want to quarantine somebody coming back from a trip.
Well, it's just even just having wash gear, it's no one wants to smell that stuff, right?
Right.
That's all. I mean, like even at just to that, like you walk into a gym for the first time, you're making an impression on who you are and where you come from, and if you're ripe, then it's not a good first impression, right? So
Right. So
not even.
that's a quick little tip. Whether you are traveling with jiu-jitsu or just traveling in general, but if you need to keep stuff clean, especially if you're training, um, that will be your travel tip. Do's and don'ts. Make sure you stay clean. Now,
Yeah.
I think we should get more into the details of the actual gyms, the actual training part.
when
Um,
when you get to the gyms, yeah. Can I just before though, before you get to the gyms, um, I think you should. I always contacted them. I always sent them an email, like like to the my next spots, so like a week out or so, right? Um, I always wanted to. I don't. Some places don't like it where you just show up. They think they might not treat you as nice because they think you're maybe just coming off the street to challenge them, kind of thing.
yeah,
But if you send them a line, hey, I'm gonna be in town for this week. I'd like to come by. I've heard great things about your gym, or this friend here. They told me to come by your gym, or you know, uh, yeah, that first connection, right? To make friends with, right? That
right,
that that olive branch, I guess, right? That goes a long way, right? There's a lot of places where I tell them, hey, I'm traveling. I'd like to come by for a day or two, and they're like, oh, happy to have you. Yes, I know you're a friend before that was here. We'd love to have you here. But if you walk off the street and just say, hey, I'm here for class, you know, um, maybe there's a mat fee that they waived because you talked to them first, but aren't when you're walking off the street. Maybe they think you're just there to see if you can tap all their students out, or whatever. It's always a very good etiquette, to send out a line first to you know ask when's good to come train, and let them know you know your situation, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially that
So
opens the door to a lot of, sometimes they might be so friendly that hey, if they really like the friend that that went before you, they'll be so friendly that they will just go and ask you like, where are you coming in through airport or something? I'll pick you up, or where are you staying at?
yeah,
This is how you get to the gym from wherever you're staying at. I had that happen a lot. To places I went
yeah,
to.
they want to know where you're staying. Yeah,
And a lot of them helped me find really good lodging. Um, from knowing
good
like
place
when
to
are you
go grab
arriving,
food.
right?
Yeah,
So because my purpose usually is always training. So they would.
Yeah.
To me, it's always important to just be near the gym. I don't care about the sightseeing part because I'll get out there regardless. But if most of my time is going to be spent training, I want to be near the gym. So opening that door and messaging them first might even help you in that aspect as well.
Yeah.
Besides just being courteous and saying like, "Hey, I just want to pop in."
Yeah.
So that's a really good do. I think that's a really good do. Um, when you're visiting other gyms. Worst case scenario, they don't
Yeah.
really like outsiders coming, and they'll just tell you straight up from the message. And then that's also a positive because then at least you didn't waste your time going out there.
Well, yeah, and for me, what I had is, if I have limited time and there's three gyms and I send messages out to all three of them and I get back two messages, well, I'm gonna make my way to see those other two first, right? Those two that actually said, "Hey, yeah, come on by,"
Yep.
and they it makes you feel more welcome getting that response, right? And that verification that it's okay to come by. They're happy to have you, kind of thing, right?
Right.
Um, so that's a good way of feeling out the community you're about to visit.
So, and I think that brings me to this really good point we have of do not assume that training will be free at every gym just because you are visiting.
Yeah, yeah,
Just because you are going to be there for a day does not mean the gym itself will not charge you for training there. Sometimes they have a day fee of, whatever amount, depending where you're at. But um, it's not always free. And if you are traveling on a budget, it's best to message them and find out if there is a fee. Because chances are there's another gym somewhere else that does not have a fee. And this is not to like talk down on the ones that do charge a day fee for travelers too. But this is just if you are on a budget and can't really afford to be paying daily fees at every gym you go to during your travel, then look for those that offer, a free day to visitors or a free week to visitors or whatnot. Um,
yeah. And some might actually have it where you have to you pay for the class, but the open mats are free, right? The open mats are open to everyone.
yep.
Um, so, um, when you send out that message and you hear talk to them about their schedule and their if they have fees, if they have other etiquettes that they run in their school, that you know it's just a good way of gathering all the right information before you show up, kind of thing, right?
Yep.
No
Exactly.
surprises. Yeah.
Um, and then I know, people might want to hear us talk more about the little the little details of it, but I'd say also another do and don't of traveling. Don't spend all your time training and do go and explore the city. I know my first time training out in Paris, I went out there for uh I think it was half a month I was out there. And the first portion of it, I was just training, 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 training. I was doing like two or three. I was doing about 3 classes a day, and I wasn't getting burnt out or anything. And I had already been to Paris before a couple of times, so I feel like, there's not much I can see. So I'm just gonna focus all on training. Until I realized that the part of the city I was staying in, I had never been to. So finally, I decided to give myself a morning break and go and explore the city. Um, and it was so good. It was so good. And I even met up with one of the people from the gym, and we had coffee and stuff. So don't just spend your time training doing your travel. You've go and explore the city, go and explore the town, because you are going to get a better experience of the whole travel if you get to do both equally.
Yeah, I did the same thing where I wanted to um I guess to say like kind of spread it out, have half train, half sightsee kind of thing. So it helps to kind of force you to have a rest day, um, you know, and you get out and see the sights, see the culture, the people, try some new foods. Um, you know, it's some people I know, they visit a place and they just want to do a a training camp kind of thing there for the week and just hit the gyms and train a lot. If that's your thing, sure, but I mean, you're gonna go home and talk to someone, ask you, hey, did you see this or that, and you're like, well, no, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You imagine going to a week in Paris and then coming home and all you have is you have no pictures of the Eiffel Tower,
Especially that one, huh?
yeah, like your your whole family be like you're mad,
But you see, even then, I felt like, because I already been there, I felt, man, the Eiffel Tower
yeah,
is so mainstream. Like, there's nothing out there
but
for me.
you already have that picture, right? So
I mean, I even
you know,
felt like that before
yeah,
I went and saw it for the first time. But um, that's when I started talking to the people out at the gym, and they told me, "What have you seen?" I'm like, "Well, I've been here before, so I haven't really gone out to see anything else." And they're, "Where are you staying?" And I
yeah.
told them the area, and they're like, "Oh my god, like there's so much to do there." And I did. So once they told me all these things, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go explore and see what else there is." And it was a really pretty sight of it. I'll have to send you some pictures of the pretty sight, because I was like, man, this is probably the prettiest sight I had seen in all of Paris. People think that, I don't know. To me, it was better than when I climbed the Arch of Triumph.
Okay,
In the sight
yeah,
you get there, and you get to see all the main roads leading up to it and everything.
yeah,
The sight
yeah.
I had from this other little place was so much better. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the experience itself, but yeah, it was good that I had a little nudge from somebody else to go and go see more of it.
So when you were out exploring, was that like they told you where to go and then you just kind of ran around on your own, or did they come out? Did they bring you, like, did you go with them, or like myself when I'm traveling, like I like to, like, I always was always staying at hostels or maybe some fellow globetrotters, but a lot of the times I would explore on my own, and I would get some information from the gyms I'm training at, or the hostel staff or whatever, or just Google Maps in general, right? And just kind of save a few points and just kind of go off and connect the dots on my own, and just kind of get lost in the city for the day. Um, that was my thing, right? I love, like, have a day off, just explore and just get lost and take pictures.
Yeah, when I was I have had different experiences. Like that one time in Paris, it was that morning I took off, it was just by myself, and they just kind of recommended a place to go. And I did, and then I went about my morning from there. Got to see a lot more stuff, but it all led from that point. And then I think the next day we met up and had coffee, a couple of us, and a separate day, I had dinner with somebody else, and we kind of walked around, and it just depends. Usually my mornings I would spend it by myself, just because that's I like to have a calm starting to my morning on my own schedule. Um, I don't know. I'm just like that. But then I had places like when I was out in Hamburg, and I was hanging out with Anna Yages and Lilo. Um,
Yeah,
we Lilo and I would pretty much be out all day in the city and then head back and, you know, train pretty pretty hard training sessions in the evening. So, um, but I was staying for part of my trip out there. I was staying with them, so I was kind of on their schedule. Whatever they had going on, I would
Yeah, yeah,
go fix my schedule around what they needed, to do and whatnot. Um, but so it just depends, where I'm at, and if I'm staying with somebody, usually we do things together, or if I got my own accommodations, then I go about my business, and if they want to show me a place and they have time, then I'll go with them,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so it just depends. And that's why I feel like reaching out to a gym ahead of time was a good tip and a good thing to do, um, because it gives you an idea of what you're gonna have going on while you're there.
yeah, yeah. A lot of times, um, too, what I would do when I first got in, if I've already have an idea of the gyms I'm going to be visiting, I'd be looking up their schedules and kind of looking, throughout the week whose schedule is what, and trying to plan out stuff. But a lot of times you just kind of just go with it, right? And you decide, okay, today I'm going to go here, then, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sometimes just you know, things kind of come up, right? Um, but when I'm there, um, like I said in that email, right? Like making sure about uh, the school etiquettes and stuff, right? Like some places have restrictions on what gis you can wear, or whatever.
Or just
So
simply like, hey, Mondays we most places you go to, Mondays is gi. And I just had my first experience where I showed up on a Monday and it was no gi, and I was like, "What?" It was so much fun. Like mentally, it was so much fun. But that also helps because then you'll know how the schedule works.
yeah, yeah, and sometimes maybe they have the competition class or just the members only class or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know
Or certain belt
plan
levels too.
accordingly. Yeah,
Certain belt
exactly. Yeah,
levels.
I've been to a few times where I showed up, and I love watching fundamentals and and just loving how they teach, because every place teaches differently on, and I just want to watch the fundamental classes. And a lot of times I'd show up and I'd jump in on those as well, and just kind of be there for a few classes. But there's a few times where I showed up and they're like, no, fundamentals is white belt only, and so I was like being kicked out of class before I could I could so I had to sit there and watch, right? Um, yeah.
I'm surprised, but I mean, hey, if they only want their white belts training, then it's whatever works for that school.
But yeah, yeah, it's a no pressure class for them, right? So
Yeah. So
yeah.
here's the thing. Another don't do that I find. I haven't met anybody like this, but I have heard many stories of people like this. And
What's that?
this is again leading right before you go to the gym. It's do not have a fucking ego.
Oh, ego. Yeah,
Leave your
yeah.
ego at the door. Literally, if you have one, don't bring it in because then you give other travelers a bad name. You know.
Well, yeah. You give uh yourself a bad name. You give whatever club you're from a bad name. Whoever your friend was that told you to go there a bad name. You know, and whatever affiliate you're with, that's a bad. Gives them a bad name. I mean, and just on in general, every club every club has someone who has an ego, and every club has someone who's like that enforcer, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
walk into a club and you have a bad ego, you're gonna piss off both of those guys and probably a few others. You're just gonna not have a good time. I don't care how good your jiu-jitsu is. I mean, you know, maybe you're awesome where you're from, maybe you're not awesome there, right? I would not want to. I would like to find that out on the best of terms, not the worst of terms,
Yeah.
right? Um, like, yeah, especially today in the age of trash talking, it's it gives a lot of young athletes a wrong sense. Like those guys, a lot of those guys are doing it just for the entertainment, right? You know, you go and you train with them, you find out they're not big trash talkers like that when it comes to actually training, right? They're doing that for the excitement to get the matches
Right.
online, and stuff. But you know, doesn't mean they're gonna be like that all the time training. Like that's gonna be how you get injuries, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's just a good rule in general for training jiu-jitsu. Like just step one, don't have an ego.
right, and I feel like how you were saying you might be good where you're from.
Yeah.
Um and people have said everybody has their kryptonite, but I feel in the jiu-jitsu world, you can have up to like 10 kryptonites, you know what I mean? So you just never know where you're going to meet one of these who's just going to shut your
Well,
game
yeah,
completely, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you
I
don't
was
want to.
at a
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was at one gym where you know for the I don't know 2 or 3 months before that, I was doing really good on my my guard passing, right? And then I walked in one gym and the guy just had like the anti game to me. And as soon as I made contact with him to do my guard passing, I just walked right into an armbar. Boom. And he did it like 2 or 3 times. And he's like, yeah, a lot of people do that kind of guard pass. So I've worked on just waiting for it to, throw on this quick armbar. And and he's like, it's because you're gripping wrong. You gotta grip this way. And he's breaking it down. And basically everything that was working for me the last 2 months just went out the window. And I'm sitting there like
Scratching
just
your bald
thinking like,
head.
what have I been? Yeah, thinking what do I do now? What do I do now? Right? Yeah, and it's you never know, right? Like it just happens, right?
Yeah, and I feel like that leads very much into this next um, quest for do's and don'ts of, especially if you are of a higher belt and you show up and the instructor is a lower belt. Now we have a lot of gyms being run by blue belts everywhere. Just because you
Yeah,
are
I
of a
mean,
higher belt and you show up and you get shut down like that does not mean you took it easy on them, or and now you're gonna teach them like the proper way to do what they just did to beat you. um no, like, take it, hey, they caught you with something, show me what you're doing. Even if you are a lower belt, I don't care, show me what you just did to counteract what I did, you know or
yeah, yeah.
or
Well,
if
sorry, yeah, like I don't, I don't understand people who want to travel but think while traveling they're going to be like the temporary like instructor, right?
mm-hmm.
I understand if you're a black belt, um, you know, uh, and they're like, hey, come in and teach, or something, right? If they ask, sure, but assuming like, hey, I'm just gonna walk in and to show start showing everyone what's what kind of thing, right?
And I feel like
Um,
even if you are a black belt and you're visiting a gym with a lower belt, if they didn't actually ask you to teach, I feel like you
yeah,
shouldn't just say
yeah,
assume.
yeah,
Even if you are a black belt, I had the privilege of having Mike Villada come and teach at the club that I was at in Germany, and I really liked how pretty much any instructor I took out there, but he was the very first one, and he was the one that kind of showed me a guideline of how I should treat the instructors when they're coming in, to make sure that everybody's feelings are respected and everything. And he was pretty much, he showed up, I introduced him, and he said, run your class. Whenever you're ready for me to teach, let me know. And I was like, okay. So, let the warm up. Had a little chit chat with the whole class for a little bit. We usually sat around and stretched and chatted for a little bit. And then I told him, all right, go ahead and start your class however you started every day, wherever, where you teach at. And that was it. But then there was a class where he was like, hey, I just want to watch. Like, I want you to teach, and I just want to watch so I can also see where you at as an instructor. Maybe I can give you tips on just you how to be a better instructor if you need, any help.
Yeah, yeah,
So it
yeah.
was the
That's
same
cool.
thing. Like, he just kind of stood back and said, you teach. I'm your student today. And I was like, it was a little nerve wracking because you have a black belt. He's first degree black belt, and he's watching you, and
Yeah,
you're like, oh, like, not only do you want to have a good interacting class, but also you want to make sure whatever you're teaching is not bullshit.
yeah, yeah,
So I feel like it doesn't matter what rank you are. If you are visiting, don't assume you're gonna be teaching, or
no,
you're gonna
yeah,
run the class.
yeah. And I've been in places where the club's very isolated, so it's all white belts just kind of trying to make it happen, right? Training together,
Mhm.
and then um, and I'm just another student in with them, and I've been at places where there's a lot of purples and brown belts there, and they're asking me to teach for a segment because they don't get a lot of visitors, and they want to see what I've picked up along the way as I'm traveling and something or so, right? So I mean, I just always just go with the flow, right? Just going with what they want to do, right? Um, it is their show, it's their gym, right? So even if you are a higher belt and you're showing up to a gym that is a lot of lower belts, it's their place, right? That's their home. You're just as the guest.
Right.
So you
And
know
there's a lot more things that go behind instructor and visiting. So I'm gonna run through a couple of these so that we can get into some other stuff as well.
yeah.
With you know proper etiquette, basic proper etiquette on and off the mat. But on, but off the mat. Keep your feet on in your shoes if you're going to the restroom. Take your shoes off. Do
I,
not step on the mats with your shoes on.
I
Um,
always bring flip flops. I always like. I've actually had quite a few places that have been like, "Thank you for bringing flip flops." So I don't walk around barefoot when I'm off the
yeah. Um,
mats.
that's I always carry flip flops too, shoes and flip flops.
Yeah.
Um, don't hesitate to train at other gyms as well. Um, in the same city that you're visiting, try to hit a couple different gyms if you have the time. If you get to hit a couple of different gyms and you show up to one and they ask you where else have you been, just mention the gym. But if they try to gossip about the gym not being good enough or something, cut off the gossip right there and then. You yourself do not gossip about the gym, especially if they hosted you and they were good to you. Don't gossip. You know.
Yeah, I've been in a few associations like that where it was like, they tell me about the drama that goes on within that city, within that community, right? And I'm like, that's that's too bad. I
Yeah.
hope you guys can work it out. Like I'm just visiting. I don't like the drama that goes on in my town. I don't want that to go on every town. I know it does, but I mean, you know, why can't we all just get along?
Right. Right. Let's sit around and kumbaya.
Yeah,
Um.
about choking each other out.
Right. Exactly. Um. Ask questions. Always ask questions to the instructor. Do not impose your questions. Like, you don't be that type that, well, hey, I can teach it better than you can. Like, no, just if you have questions, ask. If the way they're teaching something is not the way you have learned or the way it works for you, it's fine. Just keep it to yourself unless you are personally asked hey, do you do it any different kind of way? Then yeah, share your idea, but don't impose your ways on other people.
I
Um,
always I always have that white belt mind, right? Like I'm always looking at it from a new perspective,
yeah, like I'm
right?
just learning.
That yeah, that's how you're gonna pick up those cool little details that they're showing, right? Like if you walk into place and like, okay, we're gonna do armbar from closed guard, and you're like, oh man, I've repped this so many times. Well, sure, maybe you have your way, but they're gonna do it a different way. Like when I was down in San Diego and I went to University Jiu Jitsu, Sanji Hibero had just come back from ADCC, where he tapped out what 2, 3 guys with armbar from closed guard, and guess what? That's what he was teaching that week. And you're like, you know, I just pay all this money to come down here to learn, a white belt technique. It's like, yeah, sure. You maybe that's what you're thinking until you're watching this guy show these details that he used to tap out other high level black belts, and you're like, oh no, this is a black belt technique, like,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
so I always have a white belt perspective when you're a student. That way you try to learn as much as possible. Or just have a student
yeah,
mind. You know, just have I'm a student, especially if you're used to teaching. Sometimes it's hard to switch those things off, but just become a student and try to take in whatever that particular place is teaching you. Um,
yeah.
Another one, two things that I feel like these last two topics that we're saving for the end is they're kind of interesting and people don't think about them. But if you end up going to a gym, right? And the instructor there has a style that you fancy, would you ask for a private lesson while you're there?
Me,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be definitely be asking a lot of questions about it, right? To learn as much as I could. For me, privates just weren't really within my budget or within my time, um, my schedule. But if I was able to, sure, right? I mean, why not? If you run into an instructor that you're like, hey, this totally like complements my game, like the for one, like you want to train more with that person, right?
Right.
So maybe you'll come back for another class. But yeah, if you can fit in privates, I know other guys, who like friends of mine, they've done that where they go to a club and they already know of that black belt, and so they look to put in a private with that black belt or that instructor, you know, during that visit at some point, right? Um, yeah, it just makes sense, right? If you have a good teacher who, really helps you out on your game,
Yeah.
um,
I feel I
why not?
yeah, I feel the same way. Like sometimes it's not within my budget, but if I know I'm going to be hitting a certain spot and a certain instructor's there that I like their style
Hmm.
and want to learn um from them or just train with them, like have a good hour or 2 hour rolling session with them, um,
Hmm.
I'll try my best to save to whenever I reach that point, whenever I reach their city or their gym, then I have the opportunity to do so. But sometimes you reach gyms where you meet the instructor and they have a style that you like and you didn't think about it ahead of time because you're sometimes like the way I travel, I just go about wherever the wind blows, that's where I'm going. I don't necessarily plan it all the time. I plan details in
Yeah,
that particular
you're
city.
pretty yeah you're pretty sudden too. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be on Facebook and all of a sudden you're in another part of the world. I'm like, what?
Hey, I try to move, keep them guessing.
Jeez, yeah.
So, but yeah, so I think if you have it in your budget and this person is someone you like training with or you like their style, I think you should. I would.
Yeah.
I would ask for a private class. Um, if
You know what? You actually, you also mentioned one thing uh, about having the roles, having the hour to roll with them. Um, that that I found very helpful. Um, and you know while I'm was traveling, having some like higher up people be like, hey, want to come in during this time and just have an open mat, just the two of us, kind of, maybe we'll get a couple other higher guys and just come in and roll. And those were like, it's almost like a private, right? Like you're having like you're rolling and stopping and being like, hey, this is how I caught you, or this is where I kind of shut you down, you know, and this kind of like this feeding you these tips that help your game out, right? Like it's basically a informal kind of private, right? Not really teaching any set moves, but helping you out on your game, right? I've had a lot of open mats like that where it just really helps, and it's I've never been to an open mat where I was like, you know what, I wish I didn't go. I wish I didn't spend this last hour here. It's always a lot of fun going out rolling with someone in class,
Yeah,
especially the higher guys.
I have a friend, Mike from Belgium. I always have to say where they're
Mm,
from because I have like 5 Mike friends. So Mike
yeah,
from Belgium,
yeah.
actually told me this in Iceland. He said that the first few camps he went to, he would always do all the classes, and then he started to realize that he was learning a lot more by doing the open mats and getting to roll with everybody. Um,
Yeah, that's
so
what I came across that myself too recently.
say what?
I said I came across that myself too recently. I wrote about that a while back actually, about that I've found um, getting hitting more of the open mats versus the classes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'll still hit up a class or two a day, but I want to really hit up those, to roll with everyone, right?
Yeah. So being out here, I've been to the classes, I've done the seminars. Actually, just did one with Keenan Cornelius, which was really cool. Um,
Do
and
you make
then
fun of them having blue hair?
say what?
Did you make fun of them having blue hair?
Some people did actually. I saw him. I saw him walk in. Like I saw him, and in passing, like we bumped into each other. I was like, "Oh, hey, thank you for coming." And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool, thanks." But like, sure, but everybody here is so nice that everybody was saying that because it was at a different gym. The one that usually the gym I'm training at right now cross trains at or with. So I just thought because they haven't seen me before, they thought like, oh, thank you for coming and supporting the seminar.
Yeah.
So when I bumped into him, I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I just went about my business. And then my wife looks at me, she goes, did you not say hi? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, that was Keenan. I'm like, I didn't even look up. He's so tall. He's so tall that
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
above my eye level that I was like, oh yeah, sure, why not? But I was trying to get ready, try and change and everything. So then
yeah,
after that, I realized like, oh, that was him. So
yeah. I just recently saw pictures of him, and I didn't recognize him at first. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was hilarious. So
yeah, so then people started making fun of him for that. Like, why? He was supposed to be doing a tournament, I believe, out here, the Spider,
yeah,
and he didn't do the one here in Seoul. I think he was doing it. I'm not sure where. He ended up not doing that one. He was just commentating on it, and
okay, yeah, yeah,
and somebody said, "I bet you didn't do it because you had blue hair," and something. It's just stuff like that, and it was funny. But yeah, so
That's funny.
um, getting to do that, the classes and seminars and all that. But I've had 3 open mats that I've been able to attend, and both of them were about 2 hours long, and I felt that I was experimenting a lot more with certain techniques that I hadn't before, and it was because of the style the people we're rolling with here.
Yeah,
So they were
you
pushing
really
me,
get to, yeah.
you know.
Well, you really get to to get like a feel of what the club trains on, what the mindset or whatever, right? You really get a feel for the club when you go to those open mats and roll with everyone, and see kind of where your game fits with them, and whatnot.
So yeah, I think that's another really good do for
Yeah,
anybody that's traveling. At least for me, and you just mentioned that for you it's been good. So I think if
yeah.
a couple of people agree on it, it's something you should give a try. Um, very last do that I have for us to discuss today is I feel that if you are somewhere for a longer period of time than just a couple of days or even a week, and you are training there for free, they're allowing you to just train with them for free. I think offering to help with gym duties is a proper etiquette.
Oh, I do it all the time. It's funny too how like some places, it's the duty of every every student who trains on the mat to keep it clean, right? To keep the
Mm-hmm.
place clean. Whereas other places, they're like, no, no, you're a guest. Go sit over there. Like almost like they shunning you for asking to help them clean the place,
Yeah,
right? But yeah, I've always um, asked, to
help
help
out.
out
Mm-hmm.
cleaning, but I'm always, you know, to me, it's you know the the condition the pride you have for your gym, right? For keeping it clean and ordered in ordered fashion, speaks for you know you as a student and as a club and as a community, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, that's just one of those things as a student in general. You don't want to leave your place, your house in a mess. Why you want to leave
Especially, especially the way you just
your
put
gym
it.
that way?
We're talking about
Yeah,
gyms and gyms across the world and everything, and
yeah,
it seems like a big world, a big picture, but it all comes down to a jiu-jitsu community. You know,
yeah,
why? Okay, it comes down to us all training. It's a big training community all across the globe.
but it's really
And
a small community at the same
right.
time.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it's even though it sounds like it's this huge thing because you're traveling across the world to train this art, in reality, it's a really small community. It is crazy
Yeah,
how small it can get. So, you know, just to go back to all the points we just talked about, don't be one of those persons that does one of these don'ts because it is a small community. People will find out. And then
yeah.
chances of you
If
getting
you,
good treatment on your travels and getting invited to train at other places and such are going to start to become, harder to come by.
yeah, like if you if you're one of those like loud, uh, arrogant, you know, guys going in to beat everyone up, walk around with a dirty gi and just being rude to everyone, you know, that's
Correcting the black belt
yeah,
on how to do the armbar.
telling yeah, trying to take over classes because you might have met we went to some famous guy's seminar. It's
Like
that
let me
people,
teach you how to do the
yeah,
warm guard properly cuz I did the Keenan
yeah, everyone,
Cornelius seminar.
yeah, like people are gonna talk about that guy, and if you hit up if you're going around like that, people are gonna, you know, your name's gonna be spread for all the wrong reasons, right? So,
So yeah, anyway, for anybody else out there, I know we hit a lot of things today, and I think it's
yeah,
important. I think it's important, especially starting out with this podcast, and for you guys to continue to support us as we put out more shows for you. I think it was important for us to talk about this right off the bat because we want to really encourage everybody to travel. You know,
yeah,
it'll we can make this a really big thing. The more people travel, the better of finding the gyms in different places and remote areas as well. So
and
again,
traveling with the right mindset, right? So,
right, exactly. So let
yeah,
us know if you have your do's and don'ts, and if we missed any important ones that you think we should hit on in a later episode. Write us um, either on Facebook or leave us a comment here on one of the medias that you are listening to us on. And hey, stay staff free and
yeah, yeah.
don't be a stinky butt out there. Stay tuned on our next episode where we might talk about money and travel. Everybody likes money.
Ooh, money, yeah.
Everybody likes money.
Um, yeah. And also, if you have any questions or any topics you want us to cover in future episodes, send us a line. Let us know, and we'll cover that down the line.
Oh yeah, yeah. Or if you want to be on the episode, let us know. Write us. Let us know too, because
Yeah,
Rob and I have traveled, but this our topics and our ideas are coming from personal experience. So maybe you have a personal experience that is different from ours, and we'd like to know about that, just to try to get everybody to have a wide opinion of what it is to be a traveler.
yeah.
Until then, stay stink free.